What does an exit sign have to do with the Old Testament? Welcome to Bible on the Go with Dr. Dan. Today, we want to talk about the importance of two events in the Old Testament. In fact, the two most important events in the Old Testament, the Exodus and the Exile. Both of them start with the X. X means out. One out was good. The other outs were bad. The Exodus and the Exile are the two most important events in the Old Testament. Every single event in the Old Testament, from the very beginning to the very end, from Genesis to Malachi, is related in some way to either of these events. Are they before the Exodus in 1445 BC, the 15th century BC, or are they before, during, or after the exile in 722 for the north or 586 for the south? You see, the Exodus was one event. In 1445, it was the salvific event of the Old Testament. It was the people of God being set free after 400 years of slavery. In the desert, they got the law. They got 600 plus laws that are recorded in Leviticus, for example. They became the people of God. They became the nation of Israel because of the salvific event of the Exodus. God set them free. He led them during the day with a cloud by day, and at night with a pillar of fire by night. It was positive. It was breathtaking. It was memorable, and it was the identifying event of the Old Testament. To this day, the Jewish people look back on 1445 BC, on the Exodus, and say, this is when God stepped in and saved his people. This is when his people became a people. That's the first most important event in the Old Testament. But the second one is just as important. It's the negative event, but it's because of the sin of the people of God 700 years later that the northern kingdom of Israel was exiled by the Assyrians. A short time after that, a little over 100 years, the southern kingdom of Judah was exiled to Babylon in 586. So we refer to the exile as one of the two events, even though they were two events within themselves. The Exodus was a single event, 1445, very positive. The people of God being set free from Egyptian bondage. But the exile was in two parts. The exile of the northern kingdom in 722, the 8th century BC, or 586, the 6th century BC. So wherever I am in the Old Testament, I can ask the question, was this before, during, or after the Exodus? In the case of Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. And then from Joshua to Malachi, I have to ask the question, was this before, during, or after the exile? And what country am I looking at? Am I looking at the northern kingdom set of kings, or am I looking at the southern kingdom set of kings leading up to the exile? And when I get to the prophets of Isaiah, Jeremiah, Ezekiel, Daniel, Hosea, Joel, Amos, Obadiah, Micah, Nahum, Habakkuk, Zephaniah, Haggai, Zechariah, and Malachi, every single prophet, before I start reading the text, I have to answer this question. Is this prophet before the exile, during the exile, or after the exile? Are they a pre-exilic prophet, an exilic prophet, or a post-exilic prophet? So the exit sign, wherever I am from now on, helps me with my Bible study. When I see an exit sign, I think, look what the Lord has provided. Now I can talk about the two most important events of the Old Testament, the Exodus and the exile. Thanks for watching Bible on the Go with Dr. Dan. Hit that like button, subscribe, and hit the bell to be reminded when we upload new content. Praise God!